WWE might be lying to their fans. Ric Flair might be using the fans as a way to, draw some viewership to his new podcast. He is saying some very crazy stuff about CM Punk and Bryan Danielson in AEW. Sounds like Ric Flair might be a little salty. Maybe he's just trying to get people to click on his podcast. I have no idea. But first, we're going to kick things off today talking about a former star that appeared in WWE. He might be headed to MLW. I actually love this story. We're talking about Ho Ho Loon. If you guys don't remember him, he is from the WWE Cruiserweight Classic, somebody that pretty much became an internet sensation, an internet meme. I don't know what it was during the time of the Cruiserweight Classic, but Ho Ho Loon definitely had people talking. At one point, he was trending on Twitter. People really enjoyed him on the Cruiserweight Classic, and I don't know, like nothing really came from it. But of course, a lot of people were actually curious on what happened to Ho Ho Loon, and he wasn't taking bookings in the States because obviously he wasn't here in the States. He doesn't live in the States. He was an international talent coming into WWE at the time. But we know that he posted a video on Twitter teasing a major league debut. And obviously it's got to be a reference to MLW, which some of you might even be questioning why I'm talking about this, because Ho Ho Loon is obviously not the biggest name. I don't even know if he is a name at this point. But why do I want to talk about this? Well, one, I think it's fair for me to talk about MLW more often. If you don't watch MLW, watch MLW. Search up some of the work from Jacob Fatu in Contra, and then also take a look at Alexander Hammerstone. Some really good things happening there. Those two guys are probably the most wanted talent outside of New Japan. These two guys are like AEW or WWE top stars kind of guys, right? A lot of people have come to that consensus. MLW doesn't get talked about a lot, but also one thing that needs to be talked about with MLW is they are known for taking lesser known stars and giving them a platform to do some really good things, help them develop their craft and then become something. If you're not familiar, MJF came from MLW, Brian Pillman Jr. came from MLW. Ace Austin, who is now on Impact Wrestling, who has done some incredible stuff, came from MLW. There's a lot of cool stuff. Court Bauer and MLW do a lot of things, and it's not in a comedic way. So the cool thing about MLW is it's a very serious, grungy, gritty promotion. Yes, it kind of lacks in production areas and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it's a great product. Ho Ho Loon was always kind of looked at like as some sort of meme. I'm actually intrigued to see what MLW does here, because if Ho Ho Loon goes to MLW, the hardcore fan base is going to love this guy. That's just how it is. Naturally, that's what's going to happen. But I'm excited to see what MLW can do with him, because this is not CM Punk. This is not Bryan Danielson. This is not one of those guys. This is literally a guy that he got over on the Cruiserweight Classic, and then we never heard from him again. There is a lot of intrigue there, and that's what I love about MLW. Like, you just don't know. It's very unpredictable. Now we got to talk about some real things. Charlotte and Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch and Bayley, they've been holding it down in WWE. Now there's this huge story about some beef with Charlotte and Becky. And of course, people are talking about this. And I'm starting to get the impression that WWE might be lying to us. You know, these stories that came out about backstage confrontation and all this stuff. I just have a very serious feeling. Like, I don't know, maybe we're wrong, but I have a feeling WWE is working everybody. The Miz is now doing interviews on television and stuff, and he's talking about how in wrestling, like, there are friends and stuff, but then you have Charlotte and Becky, like, they're using this as a way to sell the fight. And whenever something like that happens, when you're trying to use drama to sell the fight, more often than not, the drama is fake. And I'm getting very, very serious, like Jake Paul versus Ben Askren vibes here, because nobody for the life of them actually thinks that stuff was real. Pro wrestling has always been scripted, and obviously they've used different scenarios and storylines to help push a certain narrative. But of course, with Charlotte and Becky Lynch fighting at Survivor Series, of course, WWE is trying to build some sort of anticipation here. And I think WWE actually went about it the wrong way, even if the beef is legitimate. Even if the beef is legitimate, I think WWE handled this the wrong way, because if you want people to get excited about Survivor Series and you really want us to believe in the Raw versus SmackDown, it's not something that you do within one storyline, okay? This is something that you have to do gradually for months and months and months on TV to build real beef between Raw and SmackDown. That's not the case with WWE right now. There is really no benefit to them doing a brand split, because there is really no brand split. Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville run SmackDown and Raw. A lot of things just don't make sense here. So I truly believe that this was WWE's way of trying to build a match towards Survivor Series. And to be honest with you, I don't think it did anything for them. And I don't think it did anything for Becky. And I don't think it did anything for Charlotte. And I think it's time for WWE to go away from using the 4 horsewomen and start building some other women. You had Bianca Belair and you ruined it. You have Liv Morgan and you're ruining it. You have Zelina Vega and you ruined it. Go back to doing what works and stop using the same 4 people every single time and then relying on some backstage beef to sell the match. It's just not enough. You got to get invested in the program by developing storylines and characters in the long term of things. That's how you do it. Now we got to talk a little bit about Ric Flair. If you guys are unfamiliar, Ric Flair is dropping a new podcast. This is some very interesting stuff. The Woo Nation Uncensored, co-hosted by Mark Madden and Ric Flair, coming November 17th. Ric Flair dropped a preview video today in hopes of promoting the podcast. First of all, I just want to say it's very important to note, Ric Flair and Mark Madden's audio quality and video quality is just atrocious. You would expect better from people that are like, major players in the game. But anyways, nonetheless, Ric Flair was asked about CM Punk and Bryan Danielson signing with AEW, and basically this is what he says. If I'm looking at the ratings, I don't know what CM Punk and Bryan Danielson have contributed to. Yes, as you said, they are certainly both big stars in the business, both had a lot of success, but I don't know how to answer that question because all you can do, as we do with football or any other show, is look at the ratings. Now, basically what happened, Ric Flair goes on to talk about the ratings. This is what he says. I think the ratings will go up, but to me, that show should never do less than 1.1 million. If they get there once, bring in all of this talent, and then go back under 1 million, then there's something wrong. Now, this right here is Ric Flair basically saying that CM Punk and Bryan Danielson were not great business decisions because the ratings haven't been the same. And I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment. I think Bryan Danielson and CM Punk are great for business. I think AEW and the whole ratings thing, I'm going to keep talking about this probably for the rest of the time I ever do YouTube or analyze pro wrestling. Ratings don't really matter. And to be honest with you, I don't know, like TNT and everybody else is happy with AEW and they're happy with the statistics that are coming in. They're happy with the buy rates. They're happy with the ratings. They're happy with the key demos. They're happy with so much. The money's coming in. AEW is doing very well. Bryan Danielson and CM Punk are obviously a big part of that. And I think this is Ric Flair's way of being salty because he's not in AEW right now. And a lot of that probably happened due to Dark Side of the Ring. So when I see something like this and I see Ric Flair calling out, CM Punk and Bryan Danielson and basically saying that there's something wrong, I don't know what Ric Flair is watching because I'm watching Dynamite. You guys are watching Dynamite. And we know it's not the most perfect show. But at the end of the day, we can't sit here and act like Bryan Danielson and CM Punk didn't do anything for their business. And if you're looking at the ratings to justify that, I think that's a whole different conversation. And look, I don't know what Ric Flair is up to. Obviously, he wants the viewers. I don't know. Maybe get some new microphones and a guy that can help you do like the video and audio stuff because, yeah. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of today's news. My name is Ango. As always, I bring you my 2 cents on all the latest news and rumors. I'll see you guys next time right here on YouTube. Peace.